Shalom, welcome to the Jewish Task Force, JTF. I'm Chaim Ben Pesach. We have another program with the great David Ben Moshe. On this week's program, we're going to talk about what we in JTF would do if we were taking over the U.S. government now on January 20th. Of course, I have no aspirations for anything in the United States. I belong in Israel. They don't allow me to make Aliyah, but that's where I want to be. I want to be in Israel. That's my homeland. But if theoretically we could get the U.S. government to do what we want, what would that be? What would we want to see happen now that Donald Trump is taking office? What would we want to see him do if we had the power to make those decisions? That's what I'm going to be discussing. And of course, David Ben Moshe always has his own very interesting topics that he always brings up as well. But before we get to all of that, this program is dedicated to a refuah shlema, complete recovery for Sharon Mitman, Shlomo Ben Sarah, Dorit Bat Sarah, Ruven Ben Shoshana, and Ruth Bat Sarah, and to Ilui Neshamot, elevating of the souls for Malka Bat Meir, Allegra Bat Shlomo, Daniel Nankin, Victor Chazdai, Pesach Zeb Ben Dov, Lunita Adler, Shifra Hoffman, Ruven Hoffman, Barry Hoffman, Haramir Kahana, Rab Benjamin Kahana, Tzipora Fegi, Bat Liba, Yosef Ben Meir, Robert Mittman, Dennis Shore, Helen Friedman, Charles Zolat, and Yair Levine. Well, let's start off with Israel. What would we do differently if we were in charge? The first thing we would do, very first day on January 20th, we would sign an executive order. President Trump has the power to do this, and I hope he will do it. On the very first day, sign an executive order eliminating all the sanctions, all the anti-Semitic BDS sanctions that the vicious Harris-Biden administration imposed on Israel. Okay, they imposed sanctions on the Hilltop Youth. They imposed sanctions on all types of the most patriotic, law-abiding, decent Israeli Jews that you can find, the best Jews in Israel. And they impose sanctions on these people. These people have never done anything illegal, never done anything wrong. Certainly morally, they're 100% right on everything that they do. And the U.S. government under Harris and Biden are saying that there's settler violence. What's settler violence? If there was settler violence, by the way, believe me, the left-wing Israeli authorities would arrest these people in 2 seconds if there was settler violence. There's no settler violence. There's Jews in Judea and Samaria defending themselves when they're under attack from terrorists, from Muslim Nazi terrorists. And before the terrorists attack them, you know what they do? They burn American and Israeli flags and chant death to America and death to Israel. And that's who Kamala Harris and Joe Biden and the Democrats defend. And they put sanctions on Israelis who defend themselves against these Muslim Nazi monsters. These are Muslim Nazi terrorists who openly say they want to exterminate all non-Muslim infidels. And when Israeli Jews defend themselves against this, sanctions are placed on the Israeli Jews by the United States government. And Israeli banks and Israeli credit card companies cooperate with the sanctions because they're afraid they're going to be sanctioned. There's no excuse for that, by the way. They're traitors. Those Israeli banks and Israeli credit card companies are committing treason when they do that. It's a disgrace. But they do that for that reason, not that they support that. No, almost no one in Israel supports the sanctions. There's almost universal opposition to the sanctions. Even the opposition parties in Israel, the left-wing opposition parties in Israel have condemned the sanctions. Israelis do not support these sanctions. But this is what Kamala Harris and Joe Biden have imposed on Israel. And Donald Trump can eliminate these sanctions on day one because these were imposed by executive order. The president signed an executive order. No law was passed, nothing. Just an executive order. Donald Trump can sign an executive order rescinding all of the sanctions, undoing all of it on day one, and he should. That's the first thing that should happen. Second, no more American interference in the Middle East with negotiations and pressuring Israel, and you got to do this. No more interference. The United States says, you guys, you're on your own. We don't bother with this stuff anymore. We have enough problems of our own in the United States. We're not going to bother with this. We're not getting involved in this. Israel can do whatever she needs to do to defend herself. There'll be no more pressure on Israel. That's the second thing. And the third thing, end all foreign aid. That's what we would do. Trump is not going to do that, unfortunately, but that's what we would do. All foreign aid must end. Foreign aid to Israel should be cut off immediately. That's the best thing you could do for Israel. Israel will be much stronger and much better position if she becomes truly independent, and she is capable of becoming truly independent. She's capable of producing her own weapons. She's capable of being truly independent. When it comes to weapons, it's going to be a little difficult for her to produce enough jet fighters, because for a little country, that's a tremendous budgetary item, producing a lot of jet fighters. That's very hard for a small country to do. That's going to be her biggest challenge, but even that she can overcome because of Jewish brains and Jewish ingenuity and Jewish initiative in Israel. Israel can do it. And the best thing that would happen is if there was a cutoff in foreign aid and Israel was forced to do it. If Israel's back was against the wall, they would do it, and they would succeed. That would be the next thing we would do. No more foreign aid. And by the way, no more foreign aid is not just to Israel, of course. No more foreign aid to Ukraine. No more. Hundreds of billions of dollars have been given to the Ukrainian Nazi regime in their war against Russia. There should be no foreign aid. The United States should stay out of that war. It's not America's business to be involved in that war.
It's not even our hemisphere. We're over here. They're over there.
And if the Europeans want to intervene on behalf of Ukraine, let them do it. The American suckers go in and give hundreds of billions of dollars, and these big wealthy economies in Europe, like the economy of Germany, they give nothing. They don't have to give anything. They don't have to worry about it. The stupid Americans go in and give all their money to hundreds of billions of dollars. I mean, come on. How insane this is. No more foreign aid to any country, and no more aid to the UN. Kick the UN out of the United States. Let them go somewhere else. The Europeans like them. They want to follow the UN. Go to Europe. Go somewhere else. Get your building out of New York. We need more apartments in New York. We'll use we'll use the space for something else.
We need a major table tennis center. Let's use the UN building.
Okay. Whatever. But the UN should not be there. UN is an evil, anti-American, anti-Semitic organization, anti-Christian organization, vicious organization that works for evil in the world. Any evil thing you want to propose, there'll always be a majority in the UN General Assembly in favor. Always. No more UN. No more World Bank or International Monetary Fund giving hundreds of billions of dollars in so-called loans to all these third world rat nests. All these third world countries get hundreds of billions in loans. Egypt, Pakistan, hundreds of billions that are never repaid. They don't even repay the interest on the loans. Forget about the principal. Nothing is ever repaid. And all the people that say, oh, foreign aid to Israel, you get foreign aid to Israel. All these anti-Semites that say foreign aid to Israel is very small compared to those handouts. Foreign aid to Israel, by the way, is a small part of America's real foreign aid bill. America's foreign aid bill is hidden in loans, so-called, that we give to these third world countries, which are not loans because we know they're never going to be repaid. And they never are repaid. No more World Bank. No more International Monetary Fund. No more UN. No more international agencies. No more UNRWA, which is a front for Hamas, for the Hamas terrorists. No more UN Agency for Refugees, which is to keep the Arabs refugees for eternity. How long can you be a refugee? They're refugees now for 76 years already. They're still refugees. 76 years they've been refugees. I mean, come on. They're still in refugee camps, so that they can continue to have this excuse why they want to destroy Israel. Instead of, they could have solved the problem easily, overnight. They tried to destroy Israel, and the Israelis kicked them out. In the 1948 war, Israel kicked 600,000 Arabs out because they tried to destroy Israel. And so there's a refugee crisis. Well, refugees, screw them. I mean, no more aid, no more billions and billions and billions of dollars to everybody that wants to destroy the United States. What type of mentally retarded country gives so much money to everybody that wants to destroy the country? Who does these things? Unless the leaders are traitors. Who would do such things? No more. That's an end to all of this. That's Israel in the Middle East. Now, energy policy. We'll do one more for this week. Maybe next week we'll do more of this if people like it. We'll do one more energy, which is energy policy. And why do I start with energy policy? I should start with the economy, right? Inflation, unemployment, stock market, all these other things that affect so many Americans. That's what I should start with. Now, energy is just one segment, right? No, energy is the most important driving force for inflation and for the economy. Number one is energy. Now, true, many things have to be done in other areas of the economy, and that I hope maybe we'll talk about that if people like the way we're this subject for the future programs. Maybe we'll talk about what we want to do on taxes and what we obviously. I think you can tell we're not the type of people who like taxation, and we have taxation without representation, which is what we had in the Revolutionary War. Boy, do we have that now. Okay, the British Crown was very nice to the 13 colonies compared to what we have now. Okay, but I'm not even going to get into right now. I'm not even going to get into taxes and the budget. Then obviously we'd slash the budget tremendously. Would slash most of the things in the budget shouldn't be there. In the budget, most of the budget should be eliminated, most of it. But I'm not even going to get into all of that. I'm just going to do energy right now. Stop interfering in energy production and energy development in the United States. Get the government out of the way. You know what would happen if the government really, really got out of the way and let people drill for oil wherever they want to drill, and let them, and they have, and by the way, of course, if they do something wrong and they don't want to pollute because they're going to get a lawsuit. They'll bankrupt companies. If you think they want to pollute, they're going to do everything they can to avoid polluting. But don't stop them from drilling. Don't stop private initiative from. We have tremendous amounts of oil in this country that are not being that are untouchable because of the federal government. Trump eliminated some of that. He made some of it better when he was in his first term, but not enough. It should be completely anywhere with his oil, drill. Trump says drill, baby, drill. I want to really see him allow drill, baby, drill. I want to really see that. And shale, we have enough shale oil in the Rocky Mountains, in the Appalachians. We have enough shale oil in this country to supply America's energy needs for the next 500 years and more. And instead of supplying America, we could be supplying the whole world. We have tremendous shale oil reserves. But you can't, it's not environmentally sound to disrupt the ecoculture of the mountain. What the hell is wrong with these demented people? Put them in mental asylums.
That's where they belong. Do you remember when George Bush Jr. wanted to drill in Anwar and they wouldn't let him? Why didn't he sign an executive order? The thing is, Anwar is just a small section. The whole state of Alaska is sitting over a sea of oil, which runs down into Canada and becomes oil sands. All you got to do is filter the sand out, and Canada's sitting over a sea of oil. And then I told Chaim on the phone, I used to work for Big Oil, not only the Dakotas are a very large pool of oil, but under the Rocky Mountains is the largest known reserve. They're estimating at least twice what's in the Middle East. So we could be the suppliers for the entire world and stop OPEC from even breathing.
And we're going to talk about, by the way, what that would mean if we stopped, though. If we put OPEC out of business, boy, would this be a better world. But absolutely, everywhere drill for oil, open up everything. And I mentioned shale oil and, of course, natural gas. America has tremendous reserves of natural gas. We should, again, allow private initiative and private industry to go and get that natural gas and sell it to Americans and to the whole world. So we have complete energy independence. Plus, we are a huge net exporter of oil, which will have tremendous consequences for the economy. That's one place where we can get tremendous new revenue. We don't have to keep taxing Americans to death. We can get tremendous new revenue from this. Coal. Yes, coal. Clean coal. They now filter coal, and you know that developing coal and using coal with the clean coal technology we now have is actually more environmentally sound than oil or natural gas. They've made it so clean. And they want us, by the way, we have enough coal to supply all of America's energy needs for the next 500 years. Can you believe this? And it's not being, and the evil Harris-Trump administration, they want to put the coal industry out of business. They want to stop all coal. They want to stop all fossil fuel production. I mean, these people are insane. All of it. Coal, oil, natural gas, shale oil, all of it. And by the way, if people want to develop green technology, I'm not against it. I don't care. I don't care if you want to, but not with taxpayer money. You want to develop green technology? Fine. You want to develop windmills and use water. And by the way, solar energy can play a role to a certain degree. Can in no way replace fossil fuels. It is not enough. But you can use solar energy maybe to do for 5%, 6% of America's energy needs. That's possible. That's possibly doable. And of course, wind and wind power and water, and there are certain green technologies that could possibly make up 10 or 15% of America's energy needs, possibly, potentially. I'm not against it. You want to do it? Do it. I'm all for it. I'm for everything that will put the Arab Muslim Nazis and the enemies of America and Israel out of business. I want to put AIPAC and all these third world countries that hate America and hate Israel and hate the Jews and hate the Christians, I want to put them out of business. That's what I want to do. Okay? And we can easily do it. Easy. Just get government out of the way through executive order. Sign executive order this, executive order that. You're up. Go. Do whatever you want to do. You're free now. Go and do what you want. Go and do what a free enterprise system in a developed country like the United States can do if it's unleashed. Go and do it for a change. And if the Europeans and these other countries want to have restrictions on their energy production, screw them. They're stupid. But we have to stop being stupid. You know what would happen if the United States became the energy producer for the whole world? You know what happened to the U.S. economy? First of all, you know what you'd be paying for gas? You know what they pay for gas in Saudi Arabia? 50 or 60 cents a gallon. 50 cents a gallon for gas in Saudi Arabia. You know what would happen to the American economy if we were paying 50 cents a gallon for gas? You know what that would do to the American economy? You know what happened to the American economy if your heating oil bills or your electricity bills were cut down by 70 or 80%? You know what a boost that would be for the economy? Because then you'd have American consumers would have more cash in their pockets. Let me explain how the economy works. American consumers would have hundreds of billions more in their pockets and accumulating eventually be trillions more in their pockets. And they would go out and they would spend, and some of them would invest, some of them would buy stocks, some of them would buy bonds, some of them invest in companies, some of them would start up little businesses, small businesses. Small businesses would flourish again. We'd have industry in America again because we'd have money, capital to invest. We'd have real competition. We could create a whole new world that you wouldn't recognize this country. If this country became the Saudi Arabia of the world, if America became the oil exporter of the world, you wouldn't recognize America anymore. Now, that would present a lot of dangers also. There would be one big danger, that a lot of people would want to come in because America would be so prosperous that all these third world people want to come in. So you'd really have to have very tight border controls, which is another issue that we don't really have time to discuss. I don't have time to go into too much of that because I want to give David an opportunity to speak about what he wants to speak about. But you have to have very tight border controls. You cannot allow the people to come flooding into the country because America would become so prosperous. Americans would have so much extra cash and things would be so much cheaper that everybody in the world would want to come to America. So you'd have to have very strong policies to make sure that doesn't happen. Otherwise, America would be overwhelmed. Remember, California was like paradise. Under Ronald Reagan, California was like a paradise. It was so beautiful, and things were so wonderful there. But everybody wanted to go there, and the third world people took over, and now it's like 65% third world people. The 65% of the population is third world now in California, and the state. I mean, it's no longer a state. It's now it's a zoo. I mean, this is. I mean, this is the reality. You turned a beautiful state, paradise, into a zoo. So what we want is a situation where America will become a massive energy producer, an energy giant. And we'll put and by the way, what would happen to Saudi Arabia, Iran, Iraq, Egypt? They have nothing other than oil. Oil's the only thing they have because the stupid infidels allow them to drill oil, and the infidels do the drilling for them. They don't even know how to drill the oil themselves. They don't know how to produce a single barrel of oil. Left to their own devices, they couldn't produce a single barrel of oil. They don't know how to they would not know how to find their way out of a paper bag or a paper tent. They know nothing.
Remember, Egypt couldn't even run their phone systems once the Europeans got out. The Europeans built it for them, showed them how to run it. The Europeans got out, and the whole phone system collapsed under the Egyptian people.
They'll go back to the days of the camels. Okay? And that means they're much less dangerous to everybody else. It also means an end to their population boom. They can't have a lot of babies if they don't have, they'll be starving. Without the oil revenue, they'll be starving. That means no more population boom. Their population will begin to decline. Oh, that would be terrible if the Muslim population starts to decline and we have, that would really be awful for the world. I know we want to have a lot of Muslim babies in the world, right? This is what we need. A lot of new Nasrallahs and Khomeinis and Arafats. We need a lot of those. We need to produce a lot more babies like that, right? The Arab population and Muslim population boom would end. They would not be able to build nuclear bombs anymore because they wouldn't have any money. They won't have money for food. They have nothing except for they produce nothing. They have these giant edifices now in Saudi Arabia and Abu Dhabi, in Kuwait, these giant buildings because they don't know what to do with all the money that they're getting from the stupid Americans and the stupid Europeans who remain artificially dependent on them. Because they have traitor leaders. Because we have traitor leaders that allow this to happen. So that those buildings, the buildings would go bankrupt. Everything would go bankrupt. They wouldn't have money to operate any of this stuff. They wouldn't have money for an army. They wouldn't have money for nuclear weapons. They wouldn't have money for terrorism. They wouldn't have money for the population boom. They wouldn't have money for their propaganda that they teach in their madrasas that they teach Muslim children to hate the infidels and to slaughter all the infidels. They wouldn't have money for any of this. Can you imagine a world like that? Why aren't we doing this? This is something that could have been started decades ago. And every president that's been in office is guilty. Some are more guilty than others. Okay, Trump did allow some of it. he allowed to a certain degree, and America became energy independent under Trump, but not a huge energy exporter, because Trump, again, did not do everything that he could have done. He had tremendous power through executive orders, had tremendous power to unleash American energy initiatives, and he should have done that. Those are some of the things that we would recommend doing. That's what we would like to see happen. Israel would be stronger and more secure and wouldn't have to face foreign pressure and wouldn't have foreign aid, phony foreign aid strangling her. And Israel would be truly independent and would be able to do Kiddush Hashem, sanctify God's name, and defeat. Imagine what Israel would do to her enemies if she was truly independent and didn't have to worry about foreign pressure on her all the time. Can you imagine what would happen to Israel's enemies? Oh. And in the United States, what a different situation we'd have. What a different situation. What a different world this would be. We just need leaders with the guts and the determination and the common sense to do what has to be done. Now, we're going to urge you to support the Jews in Israel who do have Jewish brains and common sense and courage and stand for Jewish idealism and the type of things that should be an inspiration to Jews and righteous Gentiles all over the world. And that is the heroic Jewish pioneers in Judea and Samaria. And we're going to, and how are we supporting them now? Now we're because of these new sanctions that were just imposed on the Hilltop Youth. We're not able to give to the Hilltop Youth as we did until recent history. We can't do it now because they just imposed new sanctions on all the Hilltop Youth. So we can't do that right now. So your money right now, if you help us financially, it will help us spread our message, which is essential, including our message that Israeli Jews that they should support the Hilltop Youth and they should defend the Hilltop Youth and fight against the sanctions. Free speech we still have. And to spread our message, we can still do. Education and free speech, that we can do. But we can't support the Jewish pioneers the way we did in the past because new sanctions were imposed by this evil anti-Semitic administration. As of October 1st, 2024, there were new sanctions that have been imposed. So we're unable to put the money in the same. We just can't do what we were doing before because we can't violate the sanctions law. I'm against the sanctions, but I can't violate the law because there are criminal and civil penalties if I violate the law. Unfortunately, even though the law is unjust, I have to follow what it says. I have no choice. I don't like it. I hate it. I pray to God that Donald Trump rescinds these sanctions. Marco Rubio, his Secretary of State, the incoming Secretary of State, wrote a letter to Blinken urging him not to do the sanctions and has publicly said that he's opposed to sanctions. So I'm hoping that they'll eliminate the sanctions so we can go back to doing what we wanted to do, what we did before these sanctions were imposed across the board. But until then, we still need your support and your help so we can spread our message in Israel. That's very, very important. Our message is essential. And we're always going to be actively working no matter what. But we have no choice. We have to abide by the law, even though the law in this case is unjust. It's a BDS anti-Semitic law, and it's completely unjust. But we have no choice. We got to abide by it, unfortunately. And again, I hope Trump rescinds that so we can go back to doing what we want to do. But help us spread our message. That's very important so that we build support for the heroic Jewish pioneers in Israel. Help us spread that message. That's very, very important. And here's how you do it. You can, if you want to help us do that in Israel, you can go to our Hebrew main page, hayamin.org, and you click on the donate button in English. The page is in Hebrew, but the donate button is in English on top. Just click on the donate button. In several minutes, you can easily and very conveniently donate and help this essential cause to wake the people of Israel up. If you don't want to do it online, if you want to do it through the regular mail, you send checks and money orders made out to JTF, and you send it to JTF P.O. Box 650327, Fresh Meadows, New York 11365. Again, I hope we can go back to what we were doing before, but the past couple, it's only been about, it's less than 2 months, but the past few weeks, they imposed these new sanctions now. So we have to change now where we direct our funding now, just to be absolutely sure, even though we were not in violation of anything ever. We never violated any law or any rules, but we have to be absolutely sure we have to redirect our funding now. It's so unjust, but we have to redirect the funding now to an education campaign because of the latest sanctions that they imposed. So let's all hope and pray. We should all be praying that they lift these sanctions, that Donald Trump lifts these sanctions. And I certainly hope he does so. David?
Well, I have solar panels, and I just want to tell a little story of the solar panels, and it's a word of warning. And I'm not saying don't get them, because they're getting better all the time. They're still not where you want them, but they are getting better and more powerful, so less panels are needed. Or maybe you'll take what I say to heart and just be aware of this. A salesman was at my gym, and he came over my house, and he convinced me to buy, or actually rent, 15 panels. These are 2 kilowatt hour panels. They were just being replaced by 3 kilowatt, but not quite, not yet. So I bought 15 2 kilowatt. I rented it, and it's supposed to be 104% of what I use. It turned out, the salesman's trying to make a sale, so he's trying to make it sound so much better than it is. It turned out it was only about 40% of what I use. So a few years later, in my newer gym, there were other salesmen who were selling panels, and we bought 10 panels. These were the 3 kilowatt panels, and they promised me 130% of what I use. So I should be getting a nice chunk back at the end of the year, chunk of change. Turned out the 2 systems together are covering maybe 75% of what I use. And my house is new, so it's well insulated. It's got thermopane windows. When we moved in, there was 6 to 8 inches of cellulose in the roof, in the ceiling. We increased that to 12, so the house is well insulated. But these salesmen are trying to make a sale. I'm just warning you, if they tell you it's going to be 104%, have them put it in writing, or you want a rebate or a refund, or you don't want to take the panels down. They do work. They're just not what the salesmen portray them as. So get it in writing so you can hold them to it. If they tell you this will give you 110%, make sure you're getting 110%. If not, get a rebate from them.
By the way, the Hilltop Youth some of the Hilltop Youth use solar panels. Most of them do. And my understanding is that, at least in their case, but they're a lot less picky, of course, than Americans would be, because they have much less, but they just have one room, basically one room, one very, very simple room where the whole family lives, just because that's all they can afford. But they tell me that the solar panels for their simple needs have worked out well. That's what they tell me.
If you get enough, it'll work. But the salesmen know you don't want to spend. It's about $1,100 per panel. It may have come down since I bought those 10 3 kilowatt hour panels, but they work. They just don't do what the salesman promised. So you got to take what the salesman says with a grain of salt and have them put it in writing, and then hold them to it. And if it doesn't do what they say, either get a rebate or demand more panels that at their expense to give you what they promised. Also, there's one more thing. I hate to throw a kicker in, but if you need your roof replaced, that company's going to have to come back, and they're going to charge you a few $1,000s to take them down. And when you have the new roof, put them back up. And once again, if you're getting money back at the end of the year, that's great. Just think of yourself as being green energy, and you're not going to make money from your energy company. They're not going to if anything, they'll pay you a few dollars at the end of the year. But just make sure your panels are all working and that they do what the salesman promised.
By the way, can you put the panel? You can put the panels on the side, can't you? Some people put them on the side.
Yes, I have 15 panels facing south, right into the sun. And of course, I'm Arizona, it's a desert. So we have approximately 315 days of pure sunshine without a cloud in the sky. When I bought the other 10 panels, they didn't have room to put it facing south. So they put it on the side of the house, 5 on one side, 5 on the other. And it works. So it doesn't have, I've seen people down in Phoenix, the slope of their roof faces south, and they put it on the north side. Because I think if the sun is too strong and it gets too hot, the panels lose some efficiency. And that's why they put it facing north instead of south where the sun is. And solar in California. Gavin Newsom he probably sees this as a gold mine, so he's putting all kinds of rules, regulations, and restrictions on it. So sales of solar panels are down where Gavin Newsom and California government want clean air, but they're killing the golden goose themselves. Also, close to 80% of solar companies have gone out of business because sales are way down because people buy these things on time because they're so expensive. You have to really be rich to put up 25 panels. That'll cost you about $30,000. So people buy it on time. And when the interest rates went up, people stopped buying because now their monthly payback bill is so much higher than when interest rates were at 1.75% under Trump. For those of you who didn't notice this, you know the British car Jaguar, or Jaguar if you prefer. British cars are not known for their quality, far worse than American cars. In fact, I always joke that you need a guy running in back of the car to catch the parts as they come flying off. They went woke and put, I don't know if these are transgender or transvestites, in their ad. And the CEO said anybody who complains about this is a vile person who doesn't want equality. So we know what's going to happen with Jaguar. First of all, not many can afford it. Second of all, British cars are not good. And third of all, now they went woke. They are Bud Light 2.0. So don't be surprised if you see in a few years, as long as the CEO is still there, that Jaguar pulls out of America.
I hope they go bankrupt. But anyway, go ahead.
Did you see the ad?
No, but just from what you're telling me, I want them to go bankrupt.
Yeah, men dressed in tutus, all in orange and yellow, with yellow hair to match the yellow, whatever they're wearing. It's certainly not what a man would wear.
Okay.
So, but I couldn't tell if they're transvestites or transgender. But anyway, that's the hot thing with Jaguar now. They should be trying everything to sell their cars because Americans are quite aware about quality. They know if they buy a Japanese car, they're getting quality. And if they just happen to get a lemon, it's a fluke. My car was built in Japan. I have a Toyota RAV4, not built here because I have run flat tires. If you get a car with run flat tires, which means you can drive 50 miles at 50 miles an hour with a puncture in the tire, and it'll get you where you're going. You just have to slow down because the sidewalls are very stiff. The ride is a little rougher, but if you get a Japanese car with run flat tires, it was probably made in Japan. And as good as the cars are here, they're even better in Japan. I didn't have a single problem till I had 131,000 miles on the car. So I was problem-free for quite a few years. And then one problem, and then a few more years went by. The motherboard for the air conditioning went out, and they had to replace the motherboard. Of course, things wear out, like tires wear out, brakes wear out, batteries wear out. but no problems. All my windows go up and down just as if the car was new. You turn the CD player on, it plays just as if it was new. Everything works as if it was new. Everything is original equipment except for that motherboard. Even the oil in my car is original equipment. When I was a little boy, we used to play with toy guns. I remember I had a Hopalong Cassidy cap pistol. It had a roll of caps. You didn't shoot it in the house because it was pretty loud. But everybody wanted, I don't think Hy remembers this. He wasn't old enough. I don't think. There was a gun called a six-shooter, a toy gun. It was big. It was heavy. It was about 3/4 the size of a gun like the Lone Ranger would use. And it had 6 bullets in it. They didn't fire, of course, but you took the bullet out of the casing and you put a round cap in there. And then you could fire your 6 shots. You had to do it 6 times for the 6 bullets. You had to load the gun back up again, just like a real gun. And then you can go out and fire your 6 shots. Once again, loud caps. You don't fire that in the house. And kids had cap guns and water pistols and toy guns of every size. They came with a leatherette holster or a leather holster. Nobody was worried about these kids shooting anybody. Police never mistook a toy gun because there was so little crime when I was a kid. Today, toy guns have to have a bright orange thing sticking out of the muzzle end so that police know that's a toy gun. In California, it's even worse. They want to ban all toy guns because most kids today, and for quite a few decades, have not been playing with toy guns. They've been playing with Nerf guns. And that's America today. It's a Nerf country, and the males who are not so masculine anymore are all Nerf males. The election in Pennsylvania, Bucks County, another Italian traitor. They're so few and far between. They're so patriotic as a rule, but one pops up here and there. They were counting ballots, and one of the 3 commissioners, Diane Marsiglia, was one of the panelists who said, because a judge said you have to stop counting illegal ballots. The signatures must be there. It must be a good signature. They must be dated. If they're not dated, you can't count the ballot. That was a court ruling. She said they don't care what the court says. She said people break the law every day, and nobody listens to courts anymore. She actually said that to a room full of people. And then many people got up and voiced their displeasure, and I'm putting it mildly. Many demanded that she resign right there, but of course Democrats never resign. Only on the rarest occasion are they pushed out. Finally, even the governor of Pennsylvania, Josh Shapiro, because now, as Chaim said last week, he's a top contender for a nomination for the presidency in 2028. He all of a sudden became more reasonable, and he said, we have to stop counting illegal ballots. Finally, Bob Casey, the senator who lost the election by about 18,000 votes, finally, he said there's no path for him to victory, and he finally conceded the election. Meanwhile, Diane Marsiglia came back and apologized, but her apology was half-hearted, and she compared this court decision to Roe versus Wade, and the whole audience started booing her. And then you could see she got really angry. She made a face, and then she started to smile. She realized she was only going to get in deeper and deeper. So finally, a legal action. But you see how they try to cheat whenever they can? It's funny, you don't see the Republicans doing that because the Republicans are milk with toast or Melba toast. They're no match for the Democrats when it comes to electioneering.
Is she going to be indicted for election interference?
Obviously not.
That
I'm going to keep an eye on it, see if there's anything further.
nothing is going to happen. No, I
Of
guarantee
course
you,
not.
nothing's going to
You're a
happen.
Democrat, you get away with anything.
If she was a Republican, she'd already be indicted.
And does everybody remember Brian Williams? I think he was an NBC newscaster.
Yeah.
Good-looking guy, and he was caught lying and making stuff up.
He was caught lying. He was caught lying. I don't remember the exact details of the case, but you know all of them are liars. All of these media people are liars. But anyway, go ahead. And these left-wing media like NBC, they're all liars. But anyway, go ahead.
Well, his lies were so obvious they couldn't hide it anymore. So he was suspended for about 6 weeks, and they didn't know if they were going to bring him back. They finally sent him to, if you remember, they sent him to Devil's Island, MSNBC, where he became an anchor there. Now he's a gray-haired, older, middle-aged man. He's probably about 60. I saw him in an interview, and he was talking about how the Democrats are so out of touch. He said what I said about the Republican Party 4 years ago. He said it has to be taken down and rebuilt from the ground up. He said, first of all, who thought it would be a good idea to nominate Joe Biden? The man was 80 years old and senile, and they thought it would be a good idea to nominate him. Then who thought getting rid of him and putting Kamala Harris in so she had an England-type, very short campaign season? Then he said, the people know that the economy is not good, but the Democrat Party keeps lying to them. He said, when you go to the supermarket and a 12-pack of Bounty paper towels are $40, you know things aren't good. And he said, who thought it would be a good idea to give illegal aliens welcome bags and large handouts and free housing and free hotels, while working class Americans get none of that and are living paycheck to paycheck? And then he said, Trump showed he could be just like the average man. Of course, it's staged, but he drove a garbage truck after Biden called him and his followers garbage. And he handed out French fries at McDonald's. Meanwhile, the Harris campaign surrounded themselves with multimillionaires, maybe even billionaires, Beyonce, Oprah, billionaire, Whoopi Goldberg, and they went to these fancy restaurants to eat. He said, well, the average American can barely afford Cracker Barrel.
Bruce Springsteen.
Yeah, Bruce Springsteen.
Disgusting.
So they're so out of touch with the average American. And the Republicans are out of touch with the average American too, but this was over the top.
By the way, if you're on the if you're on the subject of elections and spending money and everything else, it's now come out that the Kamala Harris campaign paid over $1 million to Oprah Winfrey for that interview she did with Kamala Harris. She did an interview with her. They paid Oprah Winfrey $1 million for the interview, and then another $1 million to appear at a Kamala Harris rally. They paid her $2 million. They gave Oprah Winfrey for two appearances. One appearance at a rally, she got $1 million for that, and one appearance, and then for interviewing Kamala Harris. I mean, this is ethical behavior, and that's just the beginning of the story. MSNBC host Al Sharpton. You remember Al Sharpton?
He looks awful. I saw him last night.
Yeah. MSNBC host Al Sharpton. He interviewed Kamala Harris. You know the Kamala Harris campaign gave him $500,000 for the interview? They paid him off to do the interview. First of all, that should be illegal. And it's certainly unethical. And Al Sharpton is still on MSNBC. But the Kamala Harris campaign, it's now official. I mean, it's part of their official reporting. They've reported it. $500,000 was given to Al Sharpton to the National Action Network. You know what the National Action Network is? That's an organization that supported the Crown Heights pogrom. An organization that where where a Jewish rabbinical student was murdered by a black anti-Semitic mob chanting, "Kill the Jews, get the Jews," in Crown Heights. His National Action Network, which also openly supports Louis Farrakhan, who says that the Jews who says that the Jews deserve a Holocaust and that there should be, and that the entire white race should be exterminated. And there is a spaceship flying over the United States. It's called the Mothership. And when Allah give the signal, that spaceship is going to suck up the whole devil white race. This is what Louis Farrakhan preaches to his Nation of Islam followers. The National Action Network supports Louis Farrakhan openly. Kamala Harris's campaign gave $500,000 to that vicious, racist, anti-Semitic organization, the National Action Network, just to do an interview with Al Sharpton. And again, $2 million to Oprah Winfrey for 2 little appearances that she made. This is the type of campaign she raised. By the way, Kamala Harris raised $1 billion, and this is the type of stuff she burned her money on. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Let me see where I'm at. Oh yeah, I had a question for you. Did Al Sharpton take that $500,000 that they paid him and pay back any portion of the $4 million he owes in income tax? Which by now, if they added interest, would probably be about $15 million.
Al Sharpton owes income taxes, and not only that, when he ran for president, Al Sharpton ran for president. He was well qualified. Anyway, Al Sharpton ran for president. He has millions of dollars in unpaid hotel bills, other bills from the campaign. Yeah, bill it to me. Yeah, bill it to my campaign. You know, and they billed it to his campaign, and he never paid them. And they sued him, and they're suing him and getting judgments. He refuses to pay. Now, I can guarantee you that if this was someone from a different background, let's put it that way, I can assure you that person would be in prison now. He would be in prison. The IRS, you know what the IRS would do to somebody who owes millions in income taxes? And New York State?
Confiscate everything they own.
But the Attorney General of New York State, she doesn't want to, she's certainly not going to prosecute him. And that's who normally should be prosecuting him. There are 2 sets of laws in this country. That's one of the reasons why I think Trump won, because people saw that, they were going after him unfairly, and that there are 2 sets of laws in this country. I think that's one of the reasons why he was elected. I think there was a backlash against this selective prosecution and using the power of government to go after people on a political, ideological, and racial basis. I think that people rebelled against this. I think it's a major reason for Trump's victory. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, I want to show a picture, but first I want to give my concluding statement to all parents out there. When I was a kid and we had toy guns, if you misbehaved, you got a spanking. If the teacher hit you in school when you got home, you were hit again. Your parents slapped you. Today, the parents go up and they slap the teacher around, or they bring it to the principal, and the teacher gets suspended or fired depending on tenure. I don't know how it works, but I had a friend who got suspended. He was a teacher in junior high school.
A teacher could get arrested and go to prison.
Right. When I went to school,
the teacher can be put in prison. By the way, even if the student started, there are cases where the teacher defended themselves, and the teacher was arrested for defending them. This pupil hit the teacher, and the teacher hit back to defend themselves, and the teacher was arrested. No future for the country if this continues like this. No future. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well, to all the parents out there, if you defend your child's bad behavior, one day a lawyer will be defending your child's bad behavior in court. And I have something to show. I have a picture. Ian was talking about what's going on in Israel. And I just want to point out, while Israel wins Nobel Prize after Nobel Prize, Israel has the sweetest fruit in the world. I was once at the Luxor in Las Vegas, about 13 years ago. And they had the fruits that tasted just like summer fruit in New York. This was in December. So I asked my in-laws, where do they get fruit like this at this time of year? And my in-laws knew that that fruit came from Israel. Well, I found this picture of while the Arabs are trying to wipe out the Jews and creating absolutely nothing but terror, the Jews came up with something else. Look at this picture. I don't know if